Hey, how's it going, guys? Daddy here. Just want to start, as always, by saying thank you for taking interest in my channel. I hope the content provides useful for you. If it is, I really appreciate if you hit the like and subscribe button so I can continue to grow and provide more quality content. Also, if you really enjoy the content, you might even consider buying me a coffee, and the information on how to do that will be in the video description. So now I got the intro out of the way. Today we are going to be talking about setting up a mesh home network. And this is going to be another part 3 in the series of setting up my home lab. Behind me you can see is the server we've talked about in last couple of videos. So we've got the rack built, the server racked, and now it's time to kind of set up the network infrastructure that's going to be needed to get this guy going. I know it's been a minute since the last video. It's just life's really gotten in the way, so I'm trying to, while I have some time, get the network set up and then get this set up so I can actually start using it and doing some more cool videos on how to actually use it. So today, basically, I just want to start doing a couple things. One is revisit what the actual structure, just as far as like the network diagram, like what it's going to look like on paper, and then we'll actually see how it looks in practice. But before, I said I was going to use a access point and use it as a bridge. Well, I actually thought better of that, and I'll explain why in just a second. But let me swap the views. Okay, so this was what I originally was planning on doing. So in my home, there's a ground floor, a middle floor, and a third floor. My router is located on the second floor, and I was just going to, I already had a router, cheap one, basically one that came with Spectrum, and I was just going to set up this wireless access point as a bridge so that I could have wireless communication across basically internet access for my server down here. So basically wireless access point is going to be a bridge, allow communication, and then I was going to hard cable into the switch, and then take the switch to the actual server and then to the hub that kind of runs my desktop setup that I'm working from here. But in the last couple weeks, I've had some network issues. My internet just gotten super slow, so I have Spectrum, so I called Spectrum to come out, and they did a bunch of tests, and basically I was paying for 500 megabits, and I was only getting like 30 to 50 as far as download and like less than 10 for upload. So that was just really horrible. Finally had the technician come out and all that was fixed. So now I'm finally getting 500 megabits from the street, which is what I'm supposed to be getting. So kind of fast forward now, that got me thinking about, maybe this setup wasn't really the best. So what I decided to do is, instead of getting just an access point, I decided to kind of go with a full mesh setup instead. So basically, if there's 500 megabits coming in from the street, I'm going to set up one of, the TP-Link Deco is the one that I'm using. I'll show that in just a second. But basically, one of them is going to be set up as a router on the second floor. There's going to be like 2 access points or 2 satellite access points on the third and the ground floor where I am. So in theory, there should be 500 megabits coming in from the street. This mesh setup is rated for like 3,000 megabits per second, so that should be more than enough for what we need, but we'll do some speed testing to see if that's actually the case. But the idea is the whole house should be covered in 500 megabit speeds, no dead spots, and make use of every single bit of bandwidth that's coming in from the street. So basically that's going to come downstairs. There's going to be an access point down here. I'm going to cable in to that, bring it to a switch, and then kind of the same idea where the hub is going to connect via hard cable to the switch, and then the server will as well. So that's what we're looking to achieve here. I know that in the previous video, like the first video when I started all this, I showed you guys a price breakdown or a cost breakdown. So I'll do that again here. Basically, the only addition, there was an access point, so I took the access point out and I added this. So now we're a little over $1,000. So I didn't I'm not totally true to the under $1,000, but the reality is for most people, you're not going to need the majority of this. You're not going to need these cables. You're probably already going to have one, or you're not going to need this mesh system. And you're not going to need a lot of the stuff that I actually bought for this. So with that in mind, you're going to be much closer. Most people are still going to be under $1,000, unless you have a weird network or weird network constraints like me. Most people are probably going to have this in the same room as their router and plug directly into the router, which would be a much simpler way to do this. But for me, that's just not possible. So, okay, let's turn it back over to the webcam. And so this is what we're setting up today. The Deco AX3000 Wi-Fi 6 system. So did a lot of reviews and a lot of research, and this really seems to fit the bill for me. It's kind of the best compromise of quality and price. I guess speed and price really for me. And I'm going to leave some links in the video description, so if you want to learn more about Wi-Fi 6, whether or not you should use it, I think you absolutely should, especially if you have a lot of devices, and you plan on getting more and expanding in the future. Really, that's what Wi-Fi 6 is really designed for. It's handling large device volume. So there's a video that really explains the benefits pretty well. I'll link that in the description. And also, if you want a separate video, I can also do one on the differences between Wi-Fi 5 and 6. I think it's pretty cool. So just leave some comments if you'd like a video on that as well. Sorry, I'm going to go unbox this, and then we'll actually get started with the setup. Be right back. Okay, so now we got everything unboxed. I just want to run through a couple things before we actually start putting everything together. But this is very similar to, there's actually several different models of this. There's the AX2000, which is a little bit less robust, and then there's, I think, the Deco AX or something else. So it's the very base model that's Wi-Fi 5 still. So if you are interested in Wi-Fi 6, just make sure you get the models that correspond. I think it's AX2000 and AX3000 are the ones that are Wi-Fi 6, but it should be pretty obvious which one it is. So this one can connect up to 150 devices, which is awesome. I don't think I'll need that much, but cool. 3,000 megabits per second, fantastic. And 6,500 feet worth of coverage, so should be more than enough for my needs in that area. Just some really brief points on the specs. So I talked earlier about Wi-Fi 6, so some of the really neat things you get is MU-MIMO, which basically allows a lot more devices to connect at the same time. OFDMA is speed related. BS coloring is a way to minimize interference with neighboring networks, so that's really important, at least for me, because I live in an apartment complex. So that hopefully should really give me some improvement right there. The latest encryption, latest security with WPA3 can function as an access point or a router. Each of these devices it's IPv6 compatible. There's an optional Ethernet backhaul, which is kind of cool. I'll explore that here in just a little bit. And then there are 3 gigabit Ethernet ports per unit. So that's really nice. And each one is pretty small and compact. So that's pretty great. Anyway, without further ado, let's look at the actual units themselves. So that's what they look like in the box. In my opinion, pretty sleek, pretty stylish. Not that really anybody will see them, but pretty cool. And then there's the 3 gigabit Ethernet ports, so very nice, very, very nice. So let's take these guys out. We'll take out all the other cords and auxiliary goodies here. And if I remember correctly, I think it just comes with 3 power cords. Yep, 3, and then 1
Ethernet cord, and the instructions. Yep. So there we go. That's the contents, and there it is in all of its glory. Now, the next step to this is going through and installing the app. So I'll do that, and I'll figure out a way to show you guys, and then we'll move on to the next step in the setup process.
Okay, so first thing we gotta do is go to the App Store and download the Deco app. So that's what we're doing here, is the TP-Link Deco app. So we'll just give that a minute to load up. Okay, now we want to enable local network. This is just a security setting with some of the new Apple updates, so make sure that's enabled. Okay, now we need to enter username and password, and I'm not going to do that for security reasons. So we'll kind of move on to the next step. And now we need to select our model. So we are E55, I believe. Yeah, E55 looks right. Let me just double check. Yeah, E55 is correct. Okay, so we're going to grab the adapter and the Ethernet cable, and we're going to power off our modem and continue with the setup.
Okay, so behind the couch here is where my modem and router used to be, or my modem still is, my router used to be, I should say. So the modem is now powered off, and I've kept the power cord for the modem and then the Ethernet cable, and I removed the router and all the stuff that went with it. So now the next step is to plug everything back in. All right, cool. So the next step, now that everything's plugged in, is to wait until a blue light is present on the Deco. Alrighty, so we finally got that pulsing blue light, which means we are done with this step. We're ready for the next step. So we're ready to finish setting everything up. So we're gonna hop back into the app to continue setup.
Okay, so now we're back where we left off. We have already powered the modem off. We've plugged in our devices. We've made sure the modem is working. And we've reconnected everything, and the Deco is now blinking blue. So now we're going to join the Deco's network. So it's going to put out a Wi-Fi network. We're going to connect to it. We're going to wait for a bit until we connect to it. And then pick where we've placed it. In this case, mine's living room. And then we're going to select dynamic and just kind of leave everything as is. Dynamic's just going to allow the DHCP server to assign us our IP addresses on a dynamic basis. And I'm going to keep everything the same here. So the same Wi-Fi network that I had before. So my name was DD2, and then the same password, so all of my devices can reconnect without me having to reset every single device. I'm not going to type the password in here because I don't really want everybody to see it. Now it's going to create our network, and we're going to try to connect to that network. And we're going to select join. And now we're actually connecting to DD2. And now we're online. So that's just about the simplest thing I've ever seen.
Okay, so now that we've actually finished setting up the network, or the Wi-Fi network, you can see that it's green, a solid green down there. That means that everything is working as we should. So now all that's left is to finish setting up the other two access points for the upstairs and downstairs, and then we will be pretty much done with the basic setup. All right, so now I'm back downstairs near the server, and we're gonna plug in another access point or another Deco, and we're gonna configure it as an access point this time. So I'm gonna go ahead and plug it in like so. And then once again, plug the Deco in, and then boom, we're back to the app for the access point setup. Okay, so now we got everything plugged in. All we have to do is wait a couple minutes and it will set itself up. And as you can see now, after about 2 minutes, everything is connected and working. And as I said in the previous screen, after about 2 minutes, it's now green, which means it is an integrated part of our network now. Okay, since it's basically the same procedure to add more access points, I'm gonna go set the other one up upstairs, and I will come back and finish recording when it's done. Okay, now that everything's successfully set up and renamed, we can see there's an upstairs, a main floor, and a downstairs, all connected together. Now we have some security features that you can optionally implement if you'd like. And then parental controls as well. It's another nice feature of the TP-Link app. And then finally, some more advanced settings and configuration options at the very end, including reports and a whole lot more. Now we're going to move on to the speed testing.
All right, so in summary, the downstairs did pretty poorly at about 280 megabits a second. The main floor did pretty well at about 500 plus, actually really well. The upstairs did fairly well with over 400 upload speeds. So I'm happy with that. At least the main floor and the upstairs. The downstairs, I was really surprised that it was so slow, but I'm hoping once everything's cabled in, that performance will increase up over the 400 megabits for the download. So we'll see, and we'll do some further testing once all the infrastructure is set up, and I am hoping for the best.
Okay. Now we've done a little bit of speed testing. It's time for the final part of this setup, where we're going to cable in from this access point the server and then the hub. So over here in my office setup, if you see under here, there is a little Dell Thunderbolt hub, which my 3 monitors connect to, and then my laptop sits here and then is cabled through Thunderbolt or USB-C into the hub. So basically the only thing I want to do is I want to add a hard cabled Ethernet. There's a port on the back, so the idea is we're going to run a cable and connect it to the back of that hub, and that'll give me basically a hard cabled Ethernet internet access, and then that's going to go all the way around behind the desk and then connect over here. So yeah, basically there's going to be a Ethernet cable is going to come out into a switch, and the switch is going to break that into the server and then to the hub. And also, the switch should be able to allow direct communication between whatever machine I have plugged into the hub and the server itself, without having to go through the router or anything like that. So it should make the communication between the server and my hub much faster. So we'll test all that and we'll see. So I'm gonna put you there while I set everything up. So here's the switch. Now I'm going to plug this into the back of the server. I'm going to use port 1 on the back of the server. And then finally, I have this Mondo cable to reach behind everything and connect to the hub. These are all Cat 6 cables. So should be robust enough for whatever this lab grows into. I believe these are rated up to 10 gigabits per second. Okay, so this is pretty much it as far as the infrastructure part goes. So as you can see, the wireless access point is hooked into the switch. The switch is hooked into the server, and then the other port is going to my hub, which goes all the way around the desk and into the back of that guy. So, as you can see, not the prettiest, but it works for now. Cable management needs to get better over here as well. And you know, one day when I start working and have the money, I'm going to make this a lot nicer with a nice little tray for all this other stuff. But for now, it works. Oh, and one last thing I forgot is while we have this out, I'm gonna go ahead and connect the power supplies for our server so that whenever I get a chance coming up soon, I can actually start setting the server itself up. So we're gonna go ahead and do that. Okay. And there we go, this is the final setup. Everything plugged in. Some, not great, but some kind of cable management anyway. And there you go. There you have it. That's the finished product. Okay. Last thing, I want to hop on and I want to run one more speed test now that we're cabled in, and I want to see if there's any speed up between now that we're hard cabled and what it was before, because the results before were a little bit disappointing. They were almost the same as before I had this mesh network. Maybe a little bit better, but roughly the same. So I'm gonna hop back on the computer and we're gonna run some tests.
Alrighty guys, so I just ran a couple of speed tests, about 5 speed tests, and this is the last one. So as you can see down here in the basement, we are at about 436 megabits per second download and over 22 uploads. So that's fantastic. That is with the new mesh network and the hard cabling. And it seemed like the average of these 5 runs is about 450. So I'm super happy with that. You know, really, I don't know how much better I actually really could get, but let's check out an overall performance summary. So this is how it was about 2 weeks ago before I really did anything, and the ground floor was 30 megabits a second, second floor was about 300 megabits, and the third floor was about 150. So when I realized I really had a huge problem, because I was paying for 500 megabits, and I realized that this just wasn't going to fly, so I called Spectrum out, and the Spectrum tech came out and fixed a bunch of stuff, and then magically I was getting 500 on the second floor where it goes into the router, or the original Spectrum router, and then 70 on my floor, and then 300 on the third floor. When I upgrade to the mesh network, significantly better everywhere. You know, middle and upper floor both over 500, which is fantastic, and then my floor up to 280, which is great, but not as great as I would like. And then finally, when we added the hard cabling, now we are over 500 on 2 floors, and then on mine, close to 500 megabits a second. So fantastic increase and kind of just a summary of what's happened over the past couple of weeks. But really excited. The the TP Deco AX3000 is awesome. It really does live up to my expectations, and I'm looking forward to playing with it even more and actually going in and configuring some more advanced settings for security and for breaking some of my network into different subnets. So that I will probably post some more videos on that. But in the meantime, guys, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please consider giving me a like and subscribe so I continue to grow and produce better content for you. And if you guys really like the content, you might even consider buying me a coffee from the link in the video description. And if none of those things, just please give me some feedback in the comments. Let me know how I'm doing. If anything's unclear, there's stuff I can improve on, or there's any recommendations of videos you'd like to see about this content or any related content. So anyway, thanks again, guys. Have a great rest of the day.